Thank you. Good morning, everyone. How is everyone feeling this morning? Great. I hope you all enjoy your time here, and I hope some of these teachings are beneficial. Today, we will go through more verses from the 37 practice Bodhisattva. But before we do that, take a moment and correct your motivation. Dashatanda Shava Zumbala Gabani Vanseva Kunjini Dodan Warmer Samdan Yubi Dashi Delak Pensum Super Show. Now I'm going to pick up where I left off last class, which is the 13th verse, right? Dagla Nipa Jones Mayan the contact that can go to Shina Hyanji Wangiti, Dukpanam, Dagla Lemba, Jasi Laglan Yins. Okay, even if someone cut your hair, when you do not have the slightest fault, out of compassion, taken upon yourself the negativities of that person is the practice of bodhisattvas. This is an intense verse and powerful. Is this really possible? For most people, probably not. But for bodhisattvas, yes, it is absolutely possible. Because in Mahāyāna Buddhism, the bodhisattvas are able to cultivate boundless love and compassion. So it really depends on how far your compassion stretches, extends, right? And how much of your ego you are willing to let go through bodhicitta practice. Again, Kanjeng Nyingma Panzo, when I received this teaching, he said specifically on this verse, we don't have capacity to handle this kind of situation at this moment, but we should pray that someday in the future we can do it. And he said someday we will have this capacity. This verse deals with the practice of bodhicitta in the situation of being murdered, even when you did nothing wrong. It demonstrates how a bodhisattva reacts to this situation. So it is an example of cultivating the highest level of patience, forgiveness, and compassion, and the Mahāyāna Bodhisattva path. So when a bodhisattva is totally free of ego, free of selfishness, they're not attached to their own safety or reputation. Instead, they focus on the suffering of others. So it says, taking upon yourself the negativities of that person. This doesn't mean we can take their negative karma, and no one can do that. But we can influence others positively by our actions, prayers, and compassion, which may inspire them to create good karma so that their negative karma can be purified. So we can help them in ways that reduce their suffering and support them in creating better karma. Otherwise, no one can take someone's negative karma away from them, according to, Buddhism. So taking upon yourself the negativities of that person here means transforming your own mind and cultivating selflessness, and it reflects a profound commitment and aspiration to cultivate compassion for the suffering of others. So the point here is, as Mahāyāna practitioner, it encourages patience and forgiveness and is a reminder to meet challenges with compassion rather than hatred. So a bodhisattva in this situation should not feel anger or hatred, but have a feeling of, sadness that someone could actually do such a thing. And in experiencing that sadness, a bodhisattva will naturally make a great inspiration for that negative person. So if you get angry in this situation, you don't only lose your body, but also you lose your heart of bodhicitta as well. So therefore, we need to contemplate on this verse in our daily lives, so that when we face difficult situation, it will help us to remember patience and forgiveness, right? Even though we're not there yet, but this verse really tells us how important to be patient and forgiveness in this kind of situation, even though you're not doing anything wrong, but for others, ignorance and negative karma. So you will understand how important to be patient and compassionate. So even though we don't have this kind of capacity at this moment, but it will help us if you remember this verse, this stanza. And it says, even if someone cuts off your head, when you do not have the slightest fault. So this is exactly what is happening. For example, if you think about to animals all the time, right? The Ngulchu Thokmé is not exactly talking about only human beings, all beings, right? So if you think about animals don't have the slightest fault, but the slaughters cut their head, and fishermen cook fish alive in boiling oil or water or whatever. So exactly, it says, even if someone cuts off your head when you do not have the slightest fault, then people might think, oh, that's impossible. It is possible. You can see like how exactly this is exactly what happened to animals all the time, every day, every minutes and hours, they're doing these things. So from a bodhisattva's view, such suffering brings compassion, not just for the, animals like fish, but also for example, fishermen, someone who is so ignorant, no compassion. Or maybe they have a little bit seed of compassion, but they just don't understand. So bodhisattvas, they have a compassion. Sometimes I find it difficult to feel really compassion for people who harm those animals when I watch the videos and why can't you do that? I mean, if you want to kill them, just kill. Like they just put fish or anything alive. These Asian people sometimes they eat crabs like alive. Just put it. It's just unbelievable, right? So when I see that, I have difficult to feel compassion for those people. I I have compassion for the animals, but bodhisattvas not like that. Bodhisattvas, they have more compassion for those people than the animals because they're so ignorant and create such a, you see this harmful, these actions. So, but if you watch videos like that, you have difficult to feel compassion for people. But if you don't have compassion for the person who is harming the animals, it's not good for us because we are going to lose bodhicitta. So if you don't have compassion, then you are kind of angry, right? So bodhicitta is the opposite of anger. So when you're angry, that means that moment you don't have bodhicitta. So therefore, compassion is a medicine for everyone, for our own pain as well as others' suffering. So yeah, this verse is very powerful. But it's sometimes if you think about it's even though we don't have this kind of capacity at this moment, but it's very, very helpful. Now the next 14th verse is Gajik dagla mernyen ha tsukpa tongsum chapar dokwa hin na yang hiambi simjil har yang tenyi ji yonden jo pa jasi la la yin. Even if someone spreads all kinds of unpleasant remarks about you throughout the universe, in return, with a loving mind, speaking good qualities of that person is the practice of bodhisattva. Again, for most people, this is another difficult challenge. However, this teaching, suggests that no matter how harsh or unkind someone is towards a bodhisattva responds with kindness. A bodhisattva knows that someone who acts out of anger is suffering themselves. So bodhisattva can learn to respond more skillfully. Bodhisattvas never react with anger towards someone in such difficult situations. Bodhisattvas recognize that they are under the power of ignorance, anger, no compassion, and so forth. They understand. That's why their compassion is so genuine and strong. So the Bodhisattvas, the ultimate goal is to help others when they are in difficult situation. That's the ultimate goal. If you are in a good situation, you don't need really help, right? When we need help, when we are in difficult situation. And when you are in difficult situation, you are always not happy. You react negatively, you know. But bodhisattvas have a capacity to handle that. So in our daily life, there are always problems, obstacles. We don't like when someone says, unpleasant words behind us or to our friends or our family. We become angry and it can be challenging. So in this situation, before reacting, bodhisattvas, what they do is take a moment to reflect, and if you know your actions and your intentions are honest, then sometimes it is good idea to approach the person and address the issue to clear up misunderstanding. However, if the situation is not worth addressing, then it's better to let it go. So it's therefore bodhisattvas has one part, they have great wisdom. So they know how to handle the situation. And then the other part, they have a genuine compassion. Whatever they're doing is benefit for these people or beings. So it depends. Sometimes we have to talk when we have this kind of difficult situation and clear up misunderstanding. Sometimes we just need to let it go. It depends on the situation. But it's difficult to handle situations like this because we are so attached to our reputation. So if someone ruins your reputations, it's a really painful experience. We, usually think anyone who says something nice about us is a wonderful person. And we think someone who doesn't like us is a bad person, right? And we say, you are not my friend anymore. When someone hurts you, it takes time to process your emotions, whether it's anger, sadness, or frustration. It's difficult, but as a bodhisattva, we should understand that we can't control what others say about us. We can't control that, but we can control how we live our life. So what matters most is try to live in compassionately, not only towards others, but also towards yourself, towards ourselves. So we should focus on a peaceful sort of inner life. Try not to control what other people say about us, because we can't control that. But if we do things good and react like positively, compassionate, then people say nice things about us. Anyway. Now the next 15th verse is Roman Dibi Wisangaji Kinsani Trishan Tsingan Nanayo de la Gevishi Jindashiji Kipi the Pajasi Lalayan. Even if in the midst of a public gathering, someone exposes your faults and speaks harsh words about you, still seeing that person as a spiritual teacher and bound with respect is the practice of Bodhisattva. The difference between the last verse and this verse is, in this verse, we are dealing with a sort of abusive that is right in our face, right? The situation is in public. But the last verse is someone saying bad words and things like that behind our back. That's the difference. Not necessarily in public or not necessarily in faith in our face, but more sort of broadly. Here it's about harsh sort of verbal abuse, exposing what is wrong with you and really saying terrible things that may or may not be true. That's a different. So Adisha said, when you hear unpleasant words, regards them as an echo, right? So when someone criticizes somebody, especially in public, and this situation, almost any ordinary person will become angry. And they may think that since they're in public, if they don't replay to this situation, everyone will assume it is true, right? But bodhisattvas regard this as a great taste of their ability to subdue their ego. Bodhisattvas deal with this situation by thinking that maybe what they're saying could be true. I can see it for myself because of my ego, my selfishness. So this moment is seen as an opportunity to investigate themselves and find out the truth. So when someone sort of uses unpleasant speech towards us, and if we are able to remain calm and handle it well, even though it is painful, it would be really good for us because it develops our bodhicitta. Teachers say it's just like after having an operation, the pain from the sickness is completely removed. It's difficult at that moment, but it's good for us afterwards. So this practice is not about allowing others to mistreat you, but rather about an opportunity for inner development, bodhicitta, and it reflects a deep commitment to maintaining a compassionate mind. But it's really difficult. 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 by not reacting with anger and by cultivating patience, which is a key practice on the Bodhisattva path. Therefore, it says here we should consider that person as a spiritual teacher. In the West, they can't say they can't do that, but in Tibet, spiritual teachers say to the student, "Hey, don't do that. This is wrong. This is your fault. This is not." They say like that, right? So when somebody say in front of us this kind of criticism, then bodhisattvas consider this person as their spiritual teacher. So in Mahāyāna Buddhism, difficult conditions are the best conditions to inspire practitioners to practice the Dharma and Bodhicitta. Khyentse Jinpa always said that when you hear this kind of, unpleasant words, try to take them positively and use them as a chance to let go of your own ego. He said, it might sound strange to you, but it is definitely true. Why? It is because in our everyday life, if we contemplate on the methods of handling our anger, one day, when the real situation happens, we will be able to overcome our anger. Practitioners, bodhisattvas, always even though there is no negative or bad, friends in front of you like that, say these nasty things, but they always meditate, this person saying all these things that in these verses, and they meditate. If they say this, well, how do I handle this? And they always, meditate like that. If we don't practice regularly, when we face the real situation, we will not be able to practice patience. We will not remember bodhicitta and compassion at all when we hear this kind of, unpleasant words, and we get angry, like more angry, because, I'm not doing anything wrong. So when you have time, chant these verses and contemplate on their meaning. I think that's very important. So don't think this practice is not for me. Okay, I'm not there yet, and this is too much. This is I'm not there. This practice is not for me. Just forget it. Don't think that. Just chant, these verses, and then think about the meaning, and if this really happened to me, what should I do? And think about animals. This happen all the time. What should we do? Okay, now the next 16th verse. Dagvabjan, Chiperchawimi, Dagla Dravijan Tower Hienayo, Nachi, Tapiwala Mabijan, Lakpertseva, Jasi Laglanin. Even if someone whom you cherish as dearly as your own child, then treats you as an enemy in return, like a mother whose child is sick, loving that person even more is the practice of bodhisattvas. This situation is about someone who is very close to you, And then for some reason, or without any reason at all, that person turns against you, right? Which sometimes happens in our life. If a stranger does this to you, it's not that hurtful, right? But with someone you deeply love and care about, all of a sudden regards you as an enemy and harms you. It's painful. It's difficult, right? However, as bodhisattva practitioners, you're not supposed to be upset. So if we act like ordinary people in this kind of situation, what is special about our bodhicitta practice? Then, there will be no difference between the person who doesn't know anything about bodhicitta and the person who is supposed to be a bodhisattva or on the path of bodhisattva. What is different? So that's why this verse tells us to allow ourselves to feel the hurt and sadness, but without anger. So we can practice this in our mind. So it says, a mother whose child is sick, loving that person even more. It's like a mother whose child is sick and starts attacking the mother who is trying to protect the child, but the mother will not try to harm her child back, right? Instead, she will have even more love and concern for the child. So in the same way, when someone we love turns against us, we should not respond with anger. That's this verses, you know. But we should see them as sick with disturbing emotions. So Ngulchu Thokmé suggests that we should respond with even more compassion and forgiveness. Forgiveness is about um, releasing the burden of anger for our own happiness and peace of mind. Forgiving them allows us to free our mind from resentment without holding onto anger. So it is good for developing our bodhicitta practice. As in the 8 verses on mind training. Do you remember? When a person I have benefited and cared for deeply hurts me very badly, may I regard them as my supreme teacher. Do you remember? Same thing. So there are many situations which are very similar to what is mentioned in this verse. So these verses speak of our relationships with someone we love, we care about, but this person views us as an enemy. It could happen. So this situation happens all the time, especially in relationships, right? First, you deeply love, you care about someone, and then as time goes on, your love slowly turns into jealousy and anger and uncomfortable and, impatient, whatever. and then your trust turns into, doubt and hesitations and fear. Then your happiness turns into conflicts. Your pleasant time turns into fighting all the time. That is why in Buddhism, practicing detachment for our relationship is important. Because if you do that, none of this will happen. So when I say this, you would think it makes no sense. But practicing detachment doesn't mean we don't care about each other. Don't misunderstand. It means letting go of all these high expectations. So this verse tells us, when someone you love regards you as an enemy, you should love that person even more. Again, it's not easy. It takes time. But that is the goal of bodhisattvas. If you consider yourself as a bodhisattva, your goal. Otherwise, when you're happy, you have everything, and you don't have to practice patience. Why you need patience? Right? So if you are not ordinary person, if you consider yourself as a bodhisattva, this is the goal. When you have tough, difficult situations, then you will see you're real bodhisattva or not. Not. So, it says, right, in Mahāyāna Buddhism is incredible. It's so beneficial. And we, as ordinary person, we can do this. We can practice Mahāyāna Buddhism. So in Mahāyāna Buddhism, such challenges can be seen as opportunity to grow your bodhicitta. So when we contemplate and practice in this way, our heart of bodhicitta will definitely increase. So bodhicitta is the best method to transform suffering into happiness. That's why I'm always focused on how to practice bodhicitta, how to teach bodhicitta. So without practice and compassion and bodhicitta, there is no way to get through the bodhisattva path. So we must pay attention to this because it's an essential part of practice. Okay. Now the next 17th verse. Rāda nyambāga māmbi jiwoyi ngār jirwangi nitibshie nayo lama yundu kipi dagni shiro lemba jasi lalin. Even when someone who is your equal or inferior disparages, am I right? How do I say this? Okay? You out of arrogance, placing that person on the crown of your head, put it there, with the same respect of your guru is the practice of bodhisattvas. Okay, this verse suggests that when someone who is your social equal or even your inferior in position criticize you unfairly or disrespect you out of arrogance or jealousy, you should respond not with anger, but with respect. That moment can teach you patience, self-awareness, and the ability to let go of your ego. As you know, one of the greatest obstacles on the Bodhisattva path is ego, arrogance, selfishness. In the Mahāyāna Bodhisattva path, every experience is seen as an opportunity for growth and chance. Bodhisattvas always see that, understand that this is a good chance that I can increase my bodhicitta. So they, seen as an opportunity for change. To bring about true change in your mind is hard at first, but if you understand the meaning behind this mind training and keep on trying to apply it, you will find that it helps you in every difficult situation. So these teachings really encourage developing inner stability. This helps us maintain clarity in all situations. So the point in this verse is basically to learn not to respond with anger. And the result is that you develop patience and bodhicitta. The main point of this verse is we should respect either someone who is in a higher position, someone who is rich, famous, and so on, as well as someone who is in a lower position, who is poor, not famous, and so on. Both should be equal. That's what this verse, the main point of this verse. Both should be equal. But we usually don't respect them equally, right? If there is a famous person, in Tibetan culture, we give them kathas and we want to take pictures with them. But if there is a beggar person, poor person who is miserable, we don't want to talk with them. We even don't want to go near them. It's dirty. It smells bad. Maybe dangerous. So Buddhism, Buddha said, don't respect me. Buddha said, but don't respect me more than another being. So the great Mahāyāna, great practitioners, treasure mother sentient beings as equal to the Buddha. It's because they have been our mothers in countless lives, and they provide us with the opportunities to cultivate bodhicitta and attain liberation. So for these reasons, mother sentient beings are not lower, but are equal to the Buddha. So in Mahāyāna Buddhism, we should not have any kind of discrimination. We should respect all beings equally. Okay? That is the main point and the main, this verse. Keep that in mind. We should not have any kinds of discrimination. We should respect all sentient beings, include animals, equally. Okay, now we're going to recite the